Welcome. And as I record this, it's December, and I don't know about you, but I can feel this collective overwhelm everywhere. There's so much excitement at school with Santa visiting here in the Netherlands. We have a surprise visit on the 5th of December. We're starting to think about gifts. There's all this pressure to create magical moments with all these visits, and even setting up the tree and hanging up some lights. And the pressure to do all this and make it magical whilst everything else carries on. Just because it's a festive season, it doesn't mean that everything else stops. And if you're pregnant or just had a baby or have children in your life right now, that overwhelm can just be too much and it can be crushing. This morning we were running late for school again, and as I was trying to get out of the door, trying to get my keys, my hat, my gloves, everything, and then one of my kids just has a full-on meltdown because he's wearing the coat that he doesn't want to wear, and and I thought about the conversation I had with Tessa, the one I'm sharing with you today, because the things that she mentioned is changing how I approach these daily moments where you can literally break. And Tessa brings together two worlds: corporate leadership and motherhood support. And I'm so excited. I'm thrilled that Tessa's actually going to join us at the Krish Yoga Studio, which is going to lead the coaching mother circles every month. So if you felt like you've had a beautiful or not so beautiful, but a transformative experience of becoming a mother, and while you've had this transformative, life-changing experience, everything else carries on the same, or you're expected to carry on the same, or you feel like you can't fit into your own life, or you're struggling with an identity shift that comes with this evolution into motherhood, or you're just feeling overwhelmed, trying to hold all these different pieces of your life together and keep the peace at home, at work, even especially at this time of the year, you are not alone. In this conversation, Tess and I talk about the differences between therapy and coaching, especially for mothers. She shares practical tools, really simple practical tools that can make a difference in your daily life. And we talk about all the different pressure points that mothers face, right? Everything from before maternity leave through postpartum, and then even that return or not return of going back to work. Tessa shares her own journey where she has this strong career focus, and she really expected to work right up until birth, to then experiencing a complete identity crisis when she was coming back from maternity leave. And her honesty about this transition is so validating for the rest of us and is really helpful. And she also offers real, practical, simple solutions, not idealized advice that will then make you feel worse about yourself and give you more things to do, but actual tools that fit into your messy, chaotic, busy life. And before we get started, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave a review, subscribe, or share this episode with another mother who needs to hear these words right now. Every review and every share helps me bring you more interviews like this one, connecting you with experts and real voices that can support you through this journey of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood. All right, let's get into it. Hello, Tessa.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for being our coach on the Krish Yoga membership and the Krish Yoga studio. Let's dive straight in. And I would love to start off by you just telling us who you are and how you help people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to start offering my coaching as part of the membership and to meeting your network and really bringing some of my work to your members. So um, I'm Tessa. I am a prenatal postnatal yoga teacher, a hypnobirthing instructor, and I'm just about to get my accreditation for being a coach as well, which is incredibly exciting. So I have been teaching hypnobirthing prenatal yoga for a good amount of time now, and I'm also, as well as doing that, have been working in like a corporate role in management for quite a few years. And one of the parts that I love most about my corporate role is managing people, developing them, coaching them. And so I really wanted to continue to kind of develop that skill. Um, and I saw a lot of need for that kind of approach within the work that I was already doing with pregnant women, postnatal women. And actually, I felt like I was using a lot of those skills already, particularly when I'm teaching hypnobirthing or like talking to women at the end of prenatal yoga class. people are coming with problems, with challenges, and actually kind of using that approach already that we can dive into kind of what is a coaching approach. Um, so I wanted to get qualified in it, to get my accreditation in it, and then be able to kind of marry those two things that I love, which is sort of goals oriented, focused improvement, exploring people's potential, plus motherhood, which is often this hugely transformative, in good ways and bad, for women, and experiencing those, huge career, personal relationship changes in a very short period of time, and often with very little support, really. So I wanted to kind of bring those two things together, which is why I've decided to focus primarily on coaching mothers to be.
And is it something by your own personal experience that made you focus now on coaching for mothers? Obviously, you do this in your daytime job, in your corporate work, but what happened to make you focus specifically on mothers?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went on maternity leave, so I was that person that was like, I'm going to work up until I give birth, that I will be working until the baby is here. Spoiler alert, I did not do that. And I do have to bite my tongue whenever, like, I have women in my yoga class who are like, oh, I'm going to work 14 weeks. I'm like, you.
Yeah.
And then, like, lo and behold, most of the time, I'll get to about 36 weeks and be like, I cannot continue sitting on an office chair. So I was that person. I'm going to work all the way up to. Didn't end up working all the way up to. I ended up working, I think, until 38 weeks, and then my son came nearly 2 weeks late. So I had a lovely long time.
So you had a bit of a woman's time there,
which is amazing. But yeah, I was very career focused, and I was very keen to get back to work after my maternity leave. So I'm based in the UK, so I'm lucky enough to have had a full year off, which is incredible. I'm incredibly lucky, and was very grateful to have that time spent with my little boy. So I was very career focused before I went on maternity leave. When I got back from maternity leave, I just felt like everything had completely changed. Like, I just didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I remember going back in the first few months just being like, how have I gone from seeing my little boy every day, all day, every day, and being out in the world and doing things, and now suddenly, I was still very much working from home most of the time. So I was sat on my own in an office chair, talking to people on the computer. I haven't felt like I've had this completely transformative experience, and everyone else has just carried on. And I'm just expected to come back and slot back in. And I had a super supportive manager, I had a brilliant team. Even then, I just felt like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I am doing. I have no self-confidence. I feel like my brain has changed, and we obviously know it actually literally has changed. And I just felt like I'm just expected, and this is this classic phrase that we hear a lot, work like you don't have kids and mother like you don't have a job. And I just felt like that so deeply in my soul. And I had no specific access to any kind of return to work coaching, anything like that. It was, as I said, I have a great employer, so it was a very supportive atmosphere, but there was nothing specific for me, and I hadn't ever really heard about it. I did some of my own reading around it, and then as I was getting my coaching qualification, I was like, I wonder how this does apply to motherhoods. And actually, there is a whole specific world out there which is just around return to work coaching, supporting people through that transition. So yeah, as with a lot of this work, I think people come to it having had a personal experience, maybe they don't feel like they had the support that maybe they could have thrived with, and that's something that I really to be able to bring to people, and having that understanding of having done it myself. I've worked in a corporate job, I've been a senior manager, with a little boy. I've also got the kind of mindset, breath work, body work piece coming from my yoga and hypnobirthing background as well.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you share that experience about going back to work, because just last week I sat down with one of my pregnancy yoga students, and she's second-time mother, and she said the hardest part was the postpartum. Yeah. And you said it was this transformative experience, and now I'm sitting here at my desk, and she said the same. She was like, I've just created a human being. I've just literally created, I've used life force to create another person, and now I need to read emails.
Yeah.
And it was just like, she was just like, that contrast just broke her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she loves her job and she wants to go back And so I can completely relate to that duality of like, wait a minute, I've had this life-changing experience and now I'm here doing the mundane, scheduling a meeting.
Yeah.
At the same time, I want this in my life because it's part of me and it's part of my identity. But then this, but who am I? My identity has changed. So this constant turmoil of questions and development going on internally.
Exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's not like, oh, this feels uncomfortable, therefore I shouldn't do it anymore. Though actually we know that returning to work is like a huge pinch point. The percentage of women that leave having returned to work is actually quite high. A lot of women do feel like that job isn't for them anymore. But actually, is that the case? Or is it just that actually they're not been supported enough to understand what their new normal looks like? And most lots of working mums really do want to work. It's not just this, oh, I have to. I'm not cut out to be a full-time mum. I love working. But actually it's about supporting those people to feel like they can do that. And some of it is the practicalities, right? It's the space to be able to talk about like literally the logistics of being a working mum, which is very, very challenging. And before, your priority probably was your partner and your job and your family, your extended family. And now suddenly those priorities have totally changed and shifted, and you want to still have them and hold them all at the same time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, the shift was more about when I had my first two, my family revolved around my work. And actually, I found a perinatal therapist, maternal healthcare therapist who I started working with 3 years after I had my first child. And it's thanks to her that I was able to see that I can create something where my work revolves around my family, because that became, that shift in priorities. And but my point is that this type of support, I told her last week, I'm like, this type of support should be available to every single person if they need it. Like, we shouldn't have to pay for this type of support. It's just mental health. That's how I saw it. And this, of course, is I go to a therapist.
Yeah.
And you've qualified as a coach. And I would love for you to explain the difference between coaching and therapy when it comes to this particular topic, to maternal mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a really good things like lay out and be clear about, because I think there's quite a lot of overlap of like what it means. So I guess up front is that therapists will go through far more training, qualification, rigorous registration. So they will continue to be have to have supervision. They have very, very strict guidelines, and they have to go through a lot of training. Coaches, anyone can say they're a coach. It's not a protected term. So I'd say if you are going to Yeah. So so I would say make sure that they have accreditation. So ICF, International Coach Federation, is a really good one to look out for. And there are certain coaching qualifications that are accredited and some that aren't. If you are looking for a coach, just make sure that they are attributed to a formal body. So there is some which there has does have some requirements, but they are less stringent than a therapist. One of the ways that you can I find quite helpful to think about the two is that a therapist, on the whole, obviously depends kind of what kind of therapy you have, on the whole looks back, looks at your past, looks about maybe where your trauma or your issues are coming from. A coach looks forward. So a coach is looking, okay, we're thinking about specific goals. We're thinking about maximizing potential. We're not looking and we're not diving into maybe under, deep-seated issues that have come up through your life. Now, having said that, there will be some conversation about, okay, your feelings, your emotions right now.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of coaching is about thinking about self-limiting beliefs. So what do you believe about yourself that is holding you back? And there often will be some element of that might be something you believed as a child.
Past.
Exactly. But on the whole, coaches are looking forward, thinking about how we're moving forward, maximizing, rather than unpicking all of this sort of like, why we like the way we are. On the whole, an individual would be seeking out a therapist if they felt they had a mental health issue or they felt mentally unwell. Whereas a coach there would be an expectation that person was pretty mentally well. So if there's a mental health issue, it would be a therapist that you're going for. If you are looking to sort of maximize your day-to-day life, thinking about goal setting, that would be for the coach. equally, like a therapist may be able to explore kind of mental health conditions you may have, ADHD or something like that. A coach wouldn't be doing that. So there's less clinical, far less clinical. A coach is not clinically qualified.
Yeah.
Therapists often have a longer term relationship. So you have this kind of immersive, supportive, ongoing relationship. Coaches tend to be more short term, more specific. So you might focus on a couple of goals, and often coaches will only have 6 to 8 sessions with a coaching client. It's short, it's sharp, it's done. And then you might come back in a year's time when you actually have a new goal or you're in a new situation, but it is more specific. It's more short term. And I think one of the things that is also good to think about those differences, because I think it's helpful about understanding what you need, is that a therapist is there to be supportive, empathetic, understanding. A coach is going to be a bit more challenging. So they're not being unsupportive, unempathetic, but they may well ask you more challenging questions than a therapist would. And that is to get you to a point where you feel like actually you've done some digging, you've unpicked what you need to and got down to like, actually, what is my goal? What is my reality right now? And they may be more challenging now. And it's about you, where you are in that journey, as to who feel would be more appropriate for you as well. Because some people do need to be heard and do need to be held. And that's the role of a therapist. And if you feel like, actually, what I need now is a bit of a challenge, someone to hold a mirror up to me and say, okay, like, this is what you are right now. Where do you want to go? That's more the role of a coach.
Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned goal setting, because I have heard of course coaching and business coaching and this coaching. But for mothers, what kind of goals, like what kind of goal setting would there be? Like, apart from, I want to be a good mother, like what do you see? What is there to work with? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think most people will say like goal setting, oh, so I want a promotion or I want to like achieve X amount of sales. But actually, like, we can think about goals in a really far more holistic way. So maybe a mum's goal is literally to say like, I want to see my friends more often. Like, I want to rediscover a hobby that I used to love. I want to feel more confident in myself. Or it could be more specific if we're thinking about that return to work. So, you could say like, my goal is to negotiate part-time hours. My goal is to have a 50-50 split with my partner with regards to mental load. There's those kind of goals. Those are all very, very valid goals. So they may feel less, salesy, corporate. Actually, most women, most mothers, if you sit down and talk to them about how they think they could improve their lives, they will have lots of goals. They may just not articulate them as goals.
I think that's the hardest part, is articulating them, because you have a feeling of what you need or what you want.
Yeah.
And what you want more of and what you want less of, because you know what gets you, but articulating it and then turning it into something tangible that you can actually do.
Yeah.
That seems completely abstract to me.
Yeah. And that's part of that coaching process, right? So often we do, and what I love about coaching is that the coach is not telling you the answer. And that's the other thing can feel quite jarring when my clients I've coached before, when I've been qualifying, sort of come and say, I don't like my job. I want a new job. And I'm like, I can't tell you how to get a new job. Like, you have to work it out for yourself, because the answer to that question is different for everyone. And ultimately, it sounds cheesy, but the answer is inside of you. And you already know the answer. What a good coach is doing is asking you the questions that brings out that answer.
Yeah.
So, and it might also be about articulating that goal. So yes, if mom comes, I just feel completely overwhelmed. I don't know. I just, everything.
Yeah.
Then that coach can then dig into, okay, well, what is overwhelming? Let's literally go through your day. Why is it overwhelming? Like, what is overwhelming? What support network's already there? What do you already know from your past that makes you feel less overwhelmed? What has soothed you before? How could we add that into your day-to-day life? Where have you got 10 minutes in your day? Like, let's write out your day and work out where this is. When does your partner work? When does he not work? Like, then it's kind of taking that sense of, this is really difficult, and taking it through a coaching model. So there's lots of different coaching models that you can use. And some, one of the ones that we use in a more corporate environment is the GROW model. So you think about your goal, you think about the reality, like where you are right now. You think about your options, and actually part of that process is maximizing oil. So you literally go through, okay, if there was no restrictions, if I had all the money, the time, the support in the world, what would I do? and you write down all of those options, and then you go from kind of really, really wide, smaller and smaller, smaller. And then you do the N, the W, which is way forward. And you say, okay, out of those options, what are the things we can actually do? What is realistic for us now? And then the coach holding you to account as well. So if you're saying, okay, actually, I really like my husband to do bedtime twice a week so I can go to this yoga class. So I'd say, okay, so when are we going to do that by? So when I see you in a month, is that going to be in play? Like, can I pin you down for that month so that you
would you also give them tools to try and help work out how to make that happen?
Absolutely, yeah. So you'd be bringing in tools from some research that I've done, research that they've done. Say, okay, like what do we need to make that actually happen? How can we achieve that? How can you achieve that together? So it's not just about saying like you just go do it. Another thing to us you to do it.
This is what you need. Go find out. Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm so curious because at which points in the stages of motherhood do you see certain turning points? Do you see certain kind of pressure points at different phases from like pregnancy to maybe a couple of years after giving birth, where it's kind of this pressure builds up and they're like, okay, I need some help. I need to go to a coach. Like when does that happen to in general to moms?
Yeah. So I would expect, a lot of, if we're thinking like a really traditional, like woman who has a job outside a kind of an employed job who's by an organization, then I would say before you go on maternity leave, maybe a month before you go on maternity leave, there's that, okay, your identity is about to change. What are we doing for the handover? What are we saying? Like, what's your vision for your maternity leave? What are we thinking on what we're feeling right now before we go into that? There's probably another set point, which is maybe like, and it really varies for women, right? So some women feel like after 3 months, they're like, oh, I feel like good in myself. Some women, it takes 6 months. Sometimes it takes a year to sort of start to feel a little bit more like, I struggle to be like themselves. I'm always themselves, but like, and we're never the old me, right? But maybe
more in your skin, more like comfortable.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly. More in your skin,
more in yourself in a way, like more. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I understand as well.
New and improved self. So that might be at a different point, and so it might be that woman is then returning to work. So she might be thinking about returning to work. So that depending on which country you're in or where you are, that might be at 6 months, that might be at 4 months, that might be at 12 months. So before you're going back to work, and then maybe 6 months into that work point. That's more of like a kind of classic career point, like kind of trajectory. I think that if that woman is sort of seeking coaching outside of just the kind of career stuff, so maybe more holistic, then I think there's a pregnancy point. I think there's a relatively new postpartum point. And then there's a where we go next, maybe 18 months point. But I also think that a lot of women, and I see it with people I know, it's the point where before they have their second child as well, if they're having a second child, that actually it's that, oh my goodness, it's all changing again. And I think that particularly for women who are career focused, suddenly thinking, oh my goodness, I feel like I've just got my feet under the table and I'm back again. I'm off again for another maybe year. So I think that point, I can see that there would be a lot of women that would benefit from that.
Yeah,
that change again, because it is different. It's a different way, isn't it? But it's still another transition, and it's also thinking of like a 5 to 10 year career journey, thinking about those chunks that are coming out of that traditional career path that maybe that woman thought that she would be on, and processing that and seeing, what their values align, and does the values still align with the job that they're doing, and what are their priorities now, and how can we make sure that their life is serving their priorities, and it's the other way around.
No, absolutely. Because you're right. You go through it once. And one thing is the first time when it's unknown and you go through it and you come out of it. And then when you have the second child, you're like, okay, brace yourself. We're going. And it's not just the pregnancy, because now, just the pregnancy, it's the pregnancy and everything that comes after. And what I do find is that through every pregnancy, like you said, you reinvent yourself. Right. So after the first pregnancy, you kind of become this, let's say, new, upgraded version of yourself. And each one, it happens again. So you come out as a different person each time.
Yeah.
And and your values might change each time, and your priorities might change each time, and making those changes each time is exhausting,
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. And then you're doing it with more children, right?
Yeah.
Like literally you're doing there's just more people to look after.
Yeah. And I would love to know, what kind of tools would you offer? So this, I mean, I know we're talking about the traditional career world, but like I relate to it personally. I left the career world after my second child, and now I run my own business. And I know many women who do that because we've had to adapt our careers actually
Yeah.
to our growing families. So we don't have maternity leave. We don't have, understanding managers who will understand the transitions we're going for, which I have had in the past, by the way, and I deeply respect that. We don't have sick leave. We don't have, when your child is sick, you can't call your boss for certain things. So what tools, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, this applies to really any mom in any circumstance, right? So what kind of is your approach to coaching women after they've given birth? And let's talk about this kind of phase. Let's talk about this moment where the separation happens, your baby becomes a little bit more independent. It's not stuck to you all the time. There's a separation. Your baby develops enough, then you separate from your baby. You start going off into the world, trying to find yourself again, trying to figure out who you are. And in that confusion, what kind of tools would you use? What's your approach to coaching?
Yeah. So I think that I find that doing some like values work is always really helpful in this space to kind of drill down and be like, what is really important to you? And I think for a motherhood coaching, you can be quite specific about that, because you can be like, what are your parenting values? What do you hold really important? What do you want your child to see you as? And for you to see yourself as a mother, like, are you adventurous? Are you playful? Are you calm? Are you like, because actually people do have different values when it comes to that. Some people really value having routines and structures and finding that their child loves that and they want to serve their child with that kind of routine regularity. Some people say, I want to be spontaneous, mum. I want to go do something different. Some people say they want to be, super high energy and silly and playful. Some people want to be that kind of calm, port in the storm. And obviously we all a little bit of all of those things, right? But trying to understand the values of that person, I think is a really good place to start. Understanding where they are right now, like what their reality looks like. Because again, people are very, very different, how they're feeling at that point in their motherhood. And then what they want from that process. So like, what are they wanting to achieve? And achieve feels like a kind of harsh word, but like, what are they looking to get out of them? What is their vision for themselves at the end of that kind of coaching journey? And understanding that. And then we would start doing some of the tools for how we get there. So like, some of them can be literally, there's a great one called the Wheel of Life, where you do a circle and you do a series of quadrants, and there's like travel, friends, money, physical health, relationships, and then you can color in like basically how happy you are with those chunks. And it's a really good visual to say like, okay, well actually my physical health right now is great. Maybe I feel like I'm eating really well, and I'm going on walks and I'm doing my yoga, brilliant. But I haven't seen my friends for a really long time. So that is really low. And actually my money is great, but maybe my relationship isn't so great. So you can see very, very quickly where we need to focus some of our attention. And sometimes that's just a really good conversation starter to be like, oh, actually, maybe I do need to have more fun. I think a lot of us don't have fun as mothers. We don't do things for the joy of doing things. So it's about that individual understanding where they are right now and actually what that vision is, because it is different for everyone. Because some people, we shouldn't be assuming that all women either want to go off and go on a girl's holiday, go on a night out, go spend time away from the families, because lots of women don't want to do that. Actually, plenty of women say, I don't want to go away for days on end away from my kids. Actually, I just want 2 hours.
It's something else. Yeah. And some people, exactly. Some people need that 1 hour massage, and some people need to go away for the weekend. And
exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's understanding what that looks like. And then understanding what the reality of like what they can actually do to fill those gaps right now. So it's not about saying, oh, well, go away for a week on yoga to retreat to Spain and that'll solve your problems. It's actually saying, maybe right now it's just sitting in the bathroom and doing some breath work for 3 minutes, because that's all we can achieve. And that is also fine, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also more like logistical coaching tools that we can share. So I don't know if you've come across Sarah Rockwell Smith, who does a lot of like gentle parenting stuff.
Yes.
She
I
does.
read her the Gentle Sleep book.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like I read all the various gentle parenting.
I read that book and then I'm like, okay, I need to read all the rest.
And she's great. There's elements I don't agree with, but on the whole, I really like her. And she's got a great one called How to Be a Calm Parent, and that's basically focusing on you rather than parenting technique. It's focusing on you as an individual. And she says like one of the most transformative things, and I found this really transformative, and all of my friends I know, I say like, go and do this before you return to work, is writing down all the jobs that happen in the house. But both you and your partner, who that is, or anyone that you live with, if you know your wider support network, do, and that you do, write them all down, literally physically write them on a piece of paper, and then split them in half. And then the understanding of the difference between what you're currently doing and maybe what your partner is doing, no matter how well-intentioned that they are, especially returning from maternity leave, because often you will have picked up a lot of stuff during maternity leave because you're at home. And most people will not then redistribute that. So we're going back into work, now looking after a baby, probably doing more housework than we've ever done in our life, doing all the mental load stuff that comes with having a baby, and also doing our job. Now, some households run not equally for many, many reasons. Maybe one of you works away. Maybe one of you has decided that they earn more, and therefore it's absolutely fine. What needs to be is intentional, right? We need to understand that we're intentionally doing that. So there are some things that we can then actually be more practical about. How do we function in our family, and making sure that we're opting into that, not sort of walking into it with our eyes closed, and how that then works. But like you say, it's also about supporting the person to be able to do that process.
No, but you need that mental space. And it sounds so obvious when you say it. Just write down all the tasks, sit down with the person you live with, and distribute it, right? It sounds so obvious.
So easy, yeah.
Well, I've been married for 10 years. I've had children for 7, and I've never done that once. And it's a constant thing because, yeah, of course, because especially when one of us works from home or works less hours, then you carry on. I've never thought of it. You're just painting it really clear. Of course, the person who has been doing the maternity leave just takes it on and is kind of like expected to. Yeah. And actually my therapist gave us a really good tip last time, because it's really then the mundane stuff, isn't it, that you don't really think about too much, like doing the dishes at night after the children have gone to sleep, or leaving them in the morning. And I like to do it all at night and wake up to a clean kitchen, and my husband likes to do it the next morning.
Yeah.
And it's a constant battle between us.
Yeah.
And actually she's like, okay, why don't you guys sit down and talk about it? And very similar to what you just said, right? What's value for me? What's the value? Where's the value for? Why do each one of you want to do it in your own way? And maybe you can come to a compromise. And maybe on these nights where I teach yoga, or I do this, or you do, and it sounds so simple, and it made so much sense, but someone just has to spell it out to you, because as a parent, you don't have that clarity.
Yeah.
So deep in everything that needs to be done that you just cannot see. So having someone to just, clear the fog in front of you for the most obvious stuff is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so much of the time we are just in survival mode. It's literally just getting through that day, but trying to lift some of those friction points. And another really random specific example, that I was personally doing some journaling. This is the sort of thing that I would encourage, in a coaching session, doing some journaling around what is a day to day. I'm sure lots of parents know, I hate leaving the house. Getting out of the house for some reason is so hard. Someone's always in tears. By the time we leave the house, we're always running late. Someone is crying. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's my son.
Someone's shouting or crying or putting their shoe in the elevator. That's what we do.
Exactly. Always chaos. So it was literally, I had I was looking at some journal prompts. It was literally what are some friction points in your life that you just want to work through? And I was like, leaving house. And I just sat through and wrote down, and like, why is this so annoying? And it was like, I never have all of my son's stuff together. It's always in different bags. I can never find things. I always leave for the day and I'm like, I haven't got my lip balm. I haven't got my eye drops. I haven't got a water bottle for myself. So then immediately I'm irritated because my lips are dry, my eyes are dry, I'm dehydrated. I haven't set myself up for the day. So then I'm out all day with my son and I'm annoyed from hour one.
The moment you've left the house.
Because I haven't served my own needs, because I can't find any of these things because they're all over the house. So I literally now have 3 boxes in our hallway, one for my husband, one for me, one for my son. And they just have the things we need to leave the house in. And as soon as we get home, we put those things back in the house. So like his hat, his gloves, his scarf, his water bottle, my water bottle, my lip balm, my keys, my cards, everything just goes in there. So I'm not running around. And honestly, it's like transformative. And like, that is so obvious. Like, that is so obvious.
Everyone has that problem.
Problem. And like, obviously, you know, it's not perfect. Sometimes we still, but like, at least I know that I can know where my things are. You know, my
go-to point, and you're the tension of having to run around in the morning because we're always late and we're always rushing our kids, and that for me is like, I don't want to be rushing my kids around all the time.
And we hate it. We hate it. Yeah. So although those things seem so mundane and minor, like, those things add up. And we know, you know, we know all the research around mums, like why you suddenly lose your mind. And the shout is not one thing. It's a drip, drip, drip of tiny, tiny little things over the day that suddenly at 7 p.m. you're like, I can't do this anymore because these things have been annoying me the whole day. So even if it's literally looking at some of those things that are like, what drives you slightly mad, that we can change. We can't change the childcare funding situation. We can't change the whole patriarchy. What we can change is there can be a box in your hallway that has your eye drops in. That
can be the answer to your sanity as well.
Right, exactly. So it's that kind of range of things, about thinking about, you know, your really deep value work, then also thinking about what is day-to-day things that we can do to help you achieve the goals or the vision that you have for you as a parent, or wherever that is in your parenthood. If you're pregnant, or if you had your baby, or you're going back to work, and what do you want to be? What do you want to be as a working parent, and what is most important to you? Because we can't do all of those things to everyone.
No, and it's so important just to take a moment and actually think about it, because you're right. When we're in survival mode, we're not even thinking about what we want out of this. So to wrap up the conversation today, I'd love to know about your approach in the Mother Circle at Krish Yoga, because we're going to have monthly coaching. And this is going to be for anyone who's a member of the studio. So it's not going to be one-to-one. It's going to be group coach. It's going to be live. And it's going to be a mixture of pregnant moms, newly postnatal moms, and maybe postnatal mums who have toddlers or older children. What will you be doing in these Mother Circles? How will you be leading it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited to kick these off. So there'll be a couple of options, and it will probably develop a little bit as we go. But we will either kind of start with attendees or sharing a specific problem or challenge they're having that week, or we may be doing it around a certain theme. So maybe a theme that most moms may share. So maybe that's guilt or overwhelm or identity, that is kind of relevant for women across that whole journey that you've just described. And group coaching is a little bit different to one-to-one coaching. So as well as that individual back and forth with kind of the coach, me and that individual, there's also the opportunity for others in the group to contribute as well, because it's understanding the value of that sort of shared experience, and the value of you're having that peer-to-peer support as well. So there may be the attendee sort of shares a challenge or a reflection that they've been thinking that the past month. It might be within that theme, or it might be separate. And then I may ask them a few kind of specific questions on that maybe challenge them to think a little bit more deeply or dig a little bit further. And then we may discuss some options for going forward. And that could be a situation where we could offer that out to the group as well and say, have you experienced this yourself? And like, what would you do in this situation? And have you experienced the situation yourself? So we will always aim to get some kind of tangible goal focused. They've got that again, all that goal again. Actions for those individuals to take away. And often I imagine there will be a lot of overlapping experiences and challenges. So even if that person is sharing what probably a problem or a challenge, I think a lot of the women who are also attending will also probably be like, oh yeah, that also rings true, and like maybe I'll try that. So there will be that process. And then we will also wrap up the session with some relaxation, some breath work, a little bit of a focused relaxation, focusing on motherhood, kind of bringing that in from my yoga background, because even just taking that 5 minutes to have a little bit of breath and to just reinforce some of those positive messages that we've maybe been exploring during that hour, and to just remind those mothers that of all of the incredible things that they're doing and the support they have around them. So it will be quite a holistic hour, and it will be very much attendee led. So we will go with whoever's there, whatever their needs are. We'll be super flexible.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm really excited because I'm sure you get this too. At the end of pregnancy yoga and postnatal yoga, there's always a moment of conversation, and the conversation starts, and I get asked lots of questions. What should I do? How do I? And so many things. And I'm not a trained coach. I'm not a trained therapist. So I'm so excited to have someone who has the skills, has the tools to actually lead these women and support these women and do it together as a community, because that's something that we hear all the time. And I hear this all the time in the pregnancy yoga classes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I thought I was the only one who felt that way. I'm so happy I can share this in this room. And it's so special to have, people in the same stages of life going through that together, because that's what I feel that we need right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tessa. I'm going to share your details below. And if you could, I would love if you could share some journaling prompts with me in the show notes to help anyone who wants to start thinking about what you said about those values, their goals, and just to dip their toes into, maybe a little bit of self-coaching with some guidance from you through some journaling prompts. That would be wonderful.
That sounds like a great idea. Thank you so much.